the mighty and resilient Merrimack River, carving through the communities of our great region. My name is Linda Lorden, proud president of Merrimack County Savings Bank, and like the river that serves as our namesake, we're a constant yet ever-changing presence. Because to us, it's bigger than banking. It's about powering communities and putting people first. It's about knowing where you came from and where you're going. That's Merrimack style. Visit us at themerrimack.com.
Hello and welcome back to Chasing Excellence, a show about chasing what truly matters. My name is Patrick Cummings. Thank you so very, very much for joining us this week. This week, CrossFit Games week, at least if you are listening to this in the week that we put it up. And if it's after that, weren't the CrossFit Games wonderful this year? I thought we'd do something fun for the week of the CrossFit Games. We don't talk about the sport of CrossFit too much anymore. Primarily because, as you probably know, Ben stopped coaching and training CrossFit Games athletes maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago now. So that part of his life, part of our conversation has ceased, but that does not mean we never talked about it. In fact, in the early days of Chasing Excellence, we talked about it quite a bit. And so this week, I thought it would be fun to go back into the archives and pick out the two most resonant episodes that I can think of that I remember doing in the earlier days of Chasing Excellence and bring them back to the forefront. This first one, this time around, is going to be a conversation that, I kid you not, was the 5th episode we ever did. But you know what? It's actually pretty darn good. So good on us, younger Ben and younger Patrick. We did a pretty good job. This was episode 5. In the episode, I give Ben a bit of a thought experiment. We talk about what he would do with an athlete who wanted to be a CrossFit Games champion in, call it 10 years or 15 years. So we're looking at somewhere in the range of like an 8, 9, 10-year-old. So our conversation touches on the long-term development of that future CrossFit Games champ. We talk about the importance of building a versatile athlete from a young age and the significance of building mental toughness through adversity and mindful practices. I'm excited to bubble this conversation back up to the surface. Before we jump in, two quick little things that are different things, but are basically the same thing, which is wherever you're listening to this, be sure to subscribe so you do not miss an episode. We put out new shows, as you may know, on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we do not want you to miss one. Second thing, take it one step further by subscribing at chasingexcellence.email as well. That's where we send out articles. We do our weekend newsletter and where you can also ask us questions for future episodes. Okay, now here's Ben and I talking about building a future Games champion. I kind of wanted to have a little thought experiment with you in terms of thinking ahead 5, 10, maybe 15 years at what the sport of CrossFit is going to look like. And obviously we don't know what it's going to look like, but we can guess based on the last 10 years. Looking ahead to the athlete or the type of athlete who is going to be dominant at that point. If you were to say today, okay, I want to start building the athlete who's going to win the CrossFit Games in 10 or 15 years. Sort of having that as our starting point, how do you begin thinking about that as a long-term goal?
Okay, great. I love it. Like fantasy land, like CrossFit fantasy.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can build him. I think that, so if we're talking about, let's call it 15 years down the road, the athletes are reaching their genetic potential for this sport. Very similar. I equate this very similar to NHL hockey. I think it's a very similar type of sport. It's high intensity. It's physical. I think the lifespan and the peaking is very similar.
Less fighting though.
Yeah, except for now, like fighting is not much less. It's like, and people are proposing that fighting comes into CrossFit as it comes out of hockey. So I think that the similarities are very similar in terms of when these athletes peak. The heyday for a CrossFit athlete is essentially 20 to 25. It's very similar to a CrossFit Games athlete. There are some teenagers that make it, just like in the NHL, there are some teenagers that make it. There's a whole handful of athletes still competing in their late 20s, but the majority of them are not really peaking or competing for top level spots once they're into their 30s. So if we're saying 15 years down the line and we're talking about when they're peaking, that's when they're 25, we're looking at a 10-year-old today. So what do I want a 10-year-old today to be doing?
Yeah.
I want them doing CrossFit first and foremost, but not exclusively, not as the only thing. There's so much benefit to developing, especially at that young age, the big repertoire. And truthfully, some of that, which we talked about before, that third wave adaptation, that real specific stuff that they're going to get from other sports. I would want them to, if we're talking like 4 seasons, the normal 4 seasons, in the fall, I probably want them to be doing that season. I probably want them to be doing CrossFit. I probably want them to be playing that as their sport. They're in the gym, 3, 4, 5 days a week doing CrossFit. They're probably going to couple that with gymnastics. So that's where I kind of want to smush those two together. In the winter sports, this might surprise some people. I would want that athlete playing basketball.
Really?
There's no real, Katie Henniger was a former basketball. She's a games champion. She's really the only one that's come up through that.
Easy Muhammad, I think, was a...
Easy Muhammad, great call. Yep. I think the reason for that is because the physical stature doesn't line up for our sport. Our sport rewards people in the middle, right? If you think of somebody that's you're either too tall, you can get punished by those bodyweight movements like handstand push-ups, burpees, and things like that. If you're too short, you can get punished by the rope climbs, the wall balls, and the rowing. You need to be, the ideal CrossFitter is 5'9", 200 pounds.
That's male. What about female?
Female is about 5'5", 140.
Okay.
So that's kind of where, 145. That's where we kind of like these guys to be at age 25. We're starting to play with something that we can really mold into something special. Backing up 10 years, and all the dads are listening to this right now, like
taking notes.
Yeah. In the fall, it would look like CrossFit and gymnastics. In the winter, basketball, for the reason not that I want them to be good at shooting hoops, but there's so much coordination development. I think that basketball players are the most coordinated athletes. Hand, eye, foot, true, like when we think about coordination, that type of thing. It's very different than the coordination that a gymnast would pick up. There's something to the hand-eye coordination ball sport, literally ball sport, and also I want them on a team. There's a lot to be said for the development of being on a team. But
Which it doesn't happen in gymnastics.
Right, or CrossFit.
Or CrossFit.
Yep. So we want them on a team. I want them to be playing basketball because of that true coordination aspect. It gets them away from being the gym monkey. Right. And there's a lot of gymnasts out there and weightlifters out there that do really want our sport. But when you really bring them out and you have them play basketball, you have them play volleyball, you have them throw a baseball, it's like, whoa, how are you at one of the upper echelons of our sport? So I would want them to be doing that. In the spring, I want them doing track and field. Sprinting and middle distance stuff, hurdles, broad jumps, long jumps, high jumps, all that stuff, to develop that real true fast twitch and speed components.
Now, during track, is it do CrossFit some number of times a week and also do these other sports to sort of develop those specific?
At age 10, I would be doing the sport. I would be doing the sport. And at age 10, we're talking about 5th, 6th grade. It's not going to be every day. So you certainly have the component to supplement that with CrossFit as well. So 7 days a week, I'd probably be doing 3 or 4 days a week of your sport and 3 or 4 days a week of CrossFit. And then I would also, in the summertime, probably get them swimming, doing triathlons, building up some a little bit of endurance base behind that. I think you create that little repertoire, maybe some Olympic lifting in the summer as well. So kind of get that smushed on both ends. They get that really heavy and the really long, Maybe I'm saying a cop-out answer because I'm choosing like 9 sports.
All of them.
I think I left 1 or 2 sports out.
There's no archery, but that's probably
right.
valuable.
Yeah. But that's really where I think I would go with that, is that team sport, real coordination aspect, and then some of those specialty things that have real true transfer over into what we're trying to create. That's
roughly around 10. Is that, when does that just through high school?
Yeah, I think that would build up until, truthfully, that's not really, that would be a lot.
Yeah.
But at age 10, you want that vast array. You want that experience and all. We're not looking for somebody to excel in anything. I don't want if the goal is to win the CrossFit Games, I don't want them to be spending 2.5 hours a night shooting free throws. I want them on a team playing basketball and going through the practices so they can build up the coordination and really just that kind of like overarching adaptation that we're looking for. Similar to track and field, I don't need them to nail down their starting positions out of a block. I just need them faster. So they don't need to be doing this exhaustively or completely or for a very long time. I think this kind of lives through their elementary years, their middle school years. When they get to high school, they're probably going to find a sport that's a little bit more higher level. If they're in a competitive sport, I wouldn't want my athletes playing AAU or really truly specializing, but picking 2 sports, maybe even just 1 in high school, and then supplementing the rest of the year with CrossFit, sprinting, and Olympic lifting.
Now, at that point, would you suggest that athlete, whether they're 13, 14, 15, whatever age that is actually competing at CrossFit in terms of signing up for the local throwdown? Or is this, we're just building the base and the competition will come later?
Yeah, I love that question. Definitely not competing. We are not putting someone in competition mode. What we do, especially at the highest level at the games and training, Katrin, Matt, and these guys that I work with, I don't want them to be doing that for 15 years, particularly entering the sport with 15 years of competing under their belt. They're probably going to develop a lot of bad habits if they do that, not good ones, and they're going to be competing themselves out of shape. The saying in triathlons, the background I came up through was you can compete yourself out of shape. If your goal is to do an Olympic distance triathlon and you train that by doing a sprint every weekend, a lot of people look at that as a great opportunity because it's a supported training day every single weekend. You get your big stuff in. Well, there's a lot of stress that comes along with being in a race.
Yeah.
And people are going to go harder and they're not going to work on their weaknesses. They're going to try and exemplify their strengths to do better in their endeavor. Mm-hmm. So I would certainly not want them competing. Truthfully, probably not competing at all until they're, even the teenage CrossFit things has yet to bear fruit, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Knowing what I know today is I would want to shorten up that career and actually not have them competing until probably 17 or 18 years old.
So does that mean you wouldn't recommend they get two questions, that they not get a CrossFit coach until they're ready to compete? So that's 18, 19, until they really look for somebody to really help them kind of guide their way into the CrossFit career. And then piggybacking on that question, you look at a lot of other sports, whether it's tennis or golf and probably any sport that you can make money at. There are places that the talented kids can go to get that really intense training under the eyes of coaches. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you think is going to happen regardless of whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing? Is that going to happen in CrossFit? And then is that something that they should avoid for those other reasons?
I think it's happening now.
Is it?
Yeah, I've already had some parents of young kids reach out to me and ask if I would be willing to coach their kids. And I don't think it's the right approach at all. The second piece of that question is, should they get a coach? Yes, absolutely. If you can work underneath somebody that can give you an advantage and teach you how to move well and teach you how to eat right and teach you how to strategize workouts and prioritize your training sessions, weeks, and years, absolutely, that's so much better than trying to figure out on your own or figure out with your mom or dad who do CrossFit as well. Even if they're games athletes, there are some coaches in our sport that truly know what's going on at this point. If that coach is pushing the 11-year-old and the 12-year-old to maximize their potential in local competitions, I don't think that's the right approach. But if you have the opportunity to get with a good coach that can set you up to maximize your potential when you're 22, not when you're 12, yes.
That's interesting. Given that you're a coach, what would the incentive for you to be to do that, to be a coach to a kid? I guess if you took the really long view and said, I'm willing to invest 10 years in a kid before they quote unquote bear fruit, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know that there's an answer to it. It's just,
I think there is. I think the answer to why would you want to be a coach to a 12-year-old looking to maximize their potential when they're 22 is the same answer as that. Why are you a coach of a little league team, or why are you a coach of your youth soccer team, or why are you a coach of any youth? It's because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
This is kind of like leapfrogging to another section, but I think a lot of people in life in general try to figure out what the payoff is at the end, instead of doing things that they enjoy in the moment. And I think it's a real downfall in our society is we're setting our kids up through the schooling system that we have and what they're expected to do outside of school, where basically the whole system is set up for you'll be able to enjoy yourself when you retire.
Right.
And I don't think that's a great approach at all. Like, what are we doing today to maximize today and enjoy today? Like, time is relative. You don't know if you're going to be here for a week or for 130 more years. Mm-hmm. Let's try and figure out how to maximize today. And a lot of people really enjoy coaching youth sports. And that's the reason to be a part of that for sure.
But that's different than the training camp. I don't even know what they're called, but like the training camp that I'm sure you can go to Florida and as a 10-year-old and play tennis for 10 hours a day. There's a guy there he's the coach. That's his job.
Yep.
That was really my question is like, yeah, I totally get the Little League coach, stuff like that. But as a coach for like a competitive athlete, that's kind of the thing that's interesting to me. And I wonder if that'll
I think it's still the same thing. I think those people get off with training the elites of the youth level, I guess, right? Yeah. And maybe they're trying to climb the ranks to be training elites of the amateur or pro level. So that's their stepping stones.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And or they're trying to build up their repertoire or resume, and or just that's where they want to be, and that's their niche, and that's what they're excellent at, and they're a world leader in youth development, and people seek them out from all over the world, and that's what gives them their kudos and gives them their fulfillment.
That makes sense.
Different strokes, different folks. I think what people enjoy is what people enjoy.
We will be right back to continue this conversation in just 2 minutes. But first, a quick word of thanks to a few sponsors. We're brought to you this time around by LMNT. Have you gotten your calloused mitts on LMNT sparkling yet? If not, let's go. Head to drinklmnt.com/excellence to learn more and to become an LMNT insider, which is the only way you can currently get yourself some LMNT sparkling. Why would you want to do that? Well, let me tell you. LMNT Sparkling has 0 sugar, 0 caffeine, and is packed with all the electrolytes you need. It's got flavors like citrus salt, watermelon salt, grapefruit salt, and the debut of black cherry lime. So there's something truly for everyone. Each can supports your health across various occasions, turning the tide against sugar-laden and stimulant-loaded drinks. Imagine better hydration, sharper focus, and improved energy without the crash. Remember, it's only available to LMNT Insiders initially. So if you've purchased an LMNT Insider bundle in the last 9 months, you're in and you can get some. Otherwise, grab an Insider bundle and you can get yourself some access. Don't forget, you can still get free LMNT sample packs with any drink mix purchase. All you've got to do is head to drinklmnt.com. That's drink, the letters LMNT.com/excellence. Stay hydrated, stay healthy, and enjoy the next chapter in the salty rebellion with LMNT Sparkling. We're also brought to you today by Notion. I use Notion every stinking day. I use Notion nearly every minute of every stinking day. And that is not an exaggeration. Okay, well, it's when I'm working. When I'm hanging out with my kids, I don't use Notion. I produce 2 podcasts. I write, organize my to-do list, track my progress across the 5 factors, all of it inside of Notion. It is my brain outside of my brain. If you don't know what Notion is, head to notion.com/excellence to learn more and to get started. What can you do once you've got yourself started? Well, Notion combines your notes, docs, and projects into one space that's simple and beautifully designed. And now with the power of AI built right inside, it works across your entire workspace. So whether you're taking notes, managing progress, or brainstorming ideas, Notion AI helps you work faster, write better, and think bigger. Notion is used by over half of Fortune 500 companies, and teams that use it send less email, cancel more meetings, and save time searching for their work. I'm going to say that again, less email, less meetings. Those are good things. It's seamlessly integrated, infinitely flexible, and beautifully easy to use. If you work on a computer, Notion will make you work better. Get started by heading to notion.com/excellence. Okay, let's jump back into the conversation. So we kind of have an idea of like what you would recommend or suggest on the sports side. That's obviously only one part of what ends up making an athlete end up being a champion, right? And you know that better than anybody. What else would you look at for that kid to be doing from, 10 to 18? What else should they be paying attention to other than the time that they spend in either sports or the gym?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's very open-ended, and there's probably a lot of different answers I could give to that. In terms of beyond the physical adaptations we're looking for, and beyond let's get stronger, let's get faster, better endurance. What are the other sort of adaptations? The obvious one is the mental toughness component. And as we've talked about before, that is developed through overcoming adversity. That's the way to get better at it. Now, with some of the practices I would look to instill in that person, in that young person looking to be better, is some sort of mindfulness approach. Call it meditation, call it self-reflection, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it mindfulness. Mm-hmm. I would want that athlete to start to really become aware of their thought patterns. And that's how we develop mental toughness first and foremost, is just being aware of the voice inside your head and how you control that voice. That voice does not control you. And that voice is going to dictate who you become.
Right.
It's a really powerful thing. So I would instill some sort of daily, weekly, whatever it is, habitual mindfulness practice. And then the other piece of that is just the overall adversity component. I would get them as much experience as possible in as many different, I sound like I'm trying to create like a Spartan warrior type thing and like feed them to the wolves and see if they come back and survive. But it's that in a 21st century approach.
Yep.
I would want them to go and spend time literally camping in the woods. So they're used to not like Hunger Games or zombie apocalypse type stuff, but this level of like nothing really, I've seen it, I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent, overnight experiences under the stars on the ocean, right? I've been out in the wilderness for 3, 4, 5 days at a time by myself. Mm-hmm. I have hiked 10,000 foot peaks. I have, walked a marathon through the desert. Mm-hmm. Like all of a sudden you start to do those things and thrusters and pull-ups aren't that scary.
Right. Yeah. Cause I imagine it provides a perspective that if you just were an athlete and the worst thing that's ever happened is like you lost the big game, then the next time you're up against that big game, the only thing you have to compare it to is that time I lost versus
Absolutely.
All of the examples.
The perspective thing is a great word. There's actually, I'm going to blank on his name, but the man that developed Outward Bound program, which is where they take youths and bring them into the wilderness for weeks on a time and kind of live off the land and have adventures. And it's a hardship. It's hard. The reason that was created because what they found was when ships would go down in the ocean and people were living and trying to survive on lifeboats, what happened was it was not the most physically fit that survived. It wasn't the people that got the food rations and people that didn't. It wasn't the people that had sunscreen and didn't. What the people that survived were the older people. The younger people died. The 18-year-olds couldn't hack it because it's the worst thing they've ever experienced. They had no perspective. They didn't know how to overcome that sort of adversity. Right. The 40-year-olds and plus said, I've been through things, maybe not like this, but I've been through hard times before. I know that if I keep my head down, I'll get through this. Maybe not I know, but I have a higher level of faith than the 18-year-old who, woe is me, this is terrible. What are we going to do? Feed myself to the sharks.
Right. Yeah. It gives you a sense of what you're capable of.
Absolutely.
Which I think when it comes down to it on game day, that's the thing that's the reserve you sort of pull from is like, I know what I'm capable of. And
so that's what the guy who created what he wanted to do was take these 14, 15 to 18-year-olds and give them these experiences, give them some sort of hardship and watch them overcome it to make these people a little more hardier, become a hardier race, a hardier human being.
Right. Do you think that we're lacking that when you look at, 10 to 18-year-olds? Is that something that feels like it's because it feels like what you're saying is you have to make sure you go out of your way to make sure that kid has those experiences, right? Because so
it's like it's a generational thing, right? I feel like an old guy, but like used to walk uphill both ways to school through snow, wrestling cows out of the way, right? And these kids today just sit on there playing their video games, and and I'm going to sit in my rocking chair and complain about everything. Yeah. But it's true.
Yeah, especially the wrestling cows part.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I just think as the comforts of society grow, generation after generation after generation, you have to seek that stuff out more and more and more. You didn't have to, if we're talking about Paleolithic time, you didn't have to seek that out. Right. It wasn't like...
It sought you out.
Right, exactly. Every day you were trying to fight off the saber-toothed tigers and kill a gazelle so you could eat something and cook it over an open fire and make sure you had created shelter from the hardship was there and it was real. Well, that's what human beings are forged. That's what we're supposed to have. Well, now we have air conditioning and Weber grills. So I do think that we have to seek that out a little bit because I think it does develop and it creates a certain level of mental fortitude, toughness, call it what you want. But those are the traits we look for in our athletes. It's not about establishing the right goals, right? Everyone's got the same goals. Everyone wants to go to the games. Everyone wants to win the games. So that's not the differentiating factor. Mm-hmm. The differentiating factor lies way, way down the road, 4 or 5 steps before that. It truly is, what are we doing to develop character? And character is not what you're born with. Some people have it in their genes where they can withstand cold better and have a little better of true toughness, but the characteristics we're looking for are created. And the characteristics of a champion are created. And as a coach, if I had someone at age 10 and I wanted them to peak in 15 years later, I would start to develop that, not by, doing something unethical with the youth, but doing it in a really fun and exciting way where they're enjoying the process so they don't even know what's happening.
How, like when you think of Katrin and Matt and, even Spieler or the other top athletes that you've worked with, as you get to know them, are you able to sort of pinpoint how they ended up getting, because almost to a T, one of the things that they, especially those athletes that I named, they have this mental toughness that ends up being sort of the differentiating factor for their success, right? Have you been able to walk back and say, ooh, okay, I can see why when it gets really hard, you don't give up when everybody else does? Or is it just, is it not that easy to sort of reverse engineer, I guess is it?
Yeah, I don't think it's easy. I think it's essentially playing psychologist. It's like, what is it that makes you who you are today? And I don't care what level psychologist you are, whether you're Sigmund Freud or as far down the list as Ben Bergeron, I don't think there's no science to it. No one can say that truly is the reason. There's a lot of theories behind it. I don't think I'll ever be able to say this is why you have toughness and this is why you don't, and this is why Spieler has it and this is why Fraser has it and why Katrin has it. I have philosophies and I have theories behind it, but I don't know the true inner workings. I don't think they know the true inner workings. I think they have ideas behind it, but no one really knows for sure where this stuff comes from. I have theories on how to create it and how to make it stronger and fortify it, make it better, but they're theories. They've seemed to have tested out and worked well, right, but they're just that.
If you were talking to let's say like a 16 or 17-year-old, when they're starting to really think about like, ooh, this could be something that I really wanted to do. If you, not as like a coach, but as just like as a person giving them advice, what would you suggest? Because maybe they'll go back and do the things that you talked about in terms of playing those sports, but assuming that they're already kind of at a point where maybe they've got a sport that they like or they're good at, what would you ideally want those next couple of years to look like for them, knowing that they're still a few years away from really peak performance? How do they spend 16, 17, 18 to when they hit 19 and 20, they can be competitive?
Yeah. So everyone asks, like, what is it? Is it wrestlers? Is it gymnasts? Is it track and field athletes? In the women's field, a lot of soccer players excel. Yeah. I would want my athletes to be Olympic weightlifting at that age. Once we get to that age, I want them to put a lot of effort into that. Conditioning takes months to develop. Strength takes years to develop. It's, a lot of people in the strength world, Louis Simmons says it's, how do you get strong? Years. That's the answer. I want to get strong. What should I do? Like start lifting and spend years doing it. Yeah. It takes a long, long time to develop that. If you want to build up your wind, it's a 6-month training cycle. Like I can put you that's what they do for the Tour de France. They go 6 weeks, really intense to build up your wind. 6 weeks is going to get you, if you're if you've been doing CrossFit for 4 or 5 years, 6 weeks might, if you do have a phenomenal training program, might get you 5% on your strength gains. You need to lift for years. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge differentiating factor in our sport. Now, I don't want that to come across as it's the number one defining characteristic, because once you're strong enough, conditioning is the number one play. And that's a secret people just don't know. Yeah. You look at the Open, the year that they had the 1 rep max clean and jerk, yep. Rich Froning and Matt Fraser, who came in first and second in that Open, were way down the list. Hundreds of people beat them in the clean and jerk, but 0 people beat them in the thruster row. The thruster row is the one that sucks. It's the one that hurts. It's the work capacity test. It's only a 95-pound barbell, but they were both in the top 4 in the world in that. It's the work capacity that wins once you're strong enough. Yeah. But we got to get strong enough.
Right. And the idea being you can get too strong because if you're spending that much time or energy or effort getting stronger, you're not.
Yeah. So it's not too strong, but it's too strong at the expense of something else. Yeah. So truthfully, like let's take Katrin for an example. Katrin is middle of the road last year. She's going to be different this year. Last year, she was middle of the road, middle of the pack in the strength events, but she dominated the work capacity tests. There's only 1 or 2 pure strength events. There is 11 or more work capacity tests. Yep. Well, you tell me which one you'd rather excel at. Now you have to be strong enough. If Katrin doesn't have a 165 snatch, she's not going to the games. She can't get there. You have to be strong enough. But once you're a female and once you have a 200 pound, 210 pound snatch, you're strong enough. Now let's work on the work capacity side of things. But we got to get up there for these kids that need to get there.
Last question. As a coach, if a 16 or 17-year-old kid came to you and said, I really want to do this, would you rather they be in peak physical shape in terms of not only where they're at, but like where you think their potential could go? Or would you rather have a kid who you know and you can sense has a mental toughness that you don't see often? If it was only one or the other, what would you prefer as a coach, as somebody looking forward for
at age? Here's work beats talent when talent doesn't work. Okay. But having said that, I love the grittiness. I love the mental toughness, but you can't just have that. If you have that and you're at par with somebody, that person's going to win 100 times out of 100 versus somebody that just has the talent. But you have to have the talent. So if my choices are giving me talent or grit, I personally might take the talent because I think I can develop the grit. I think I can work with it. Now, particularly at that age. Now, it might fly in the face of all the stuff I put out before, but I don't think it does because I can develop it. I've seen it before.
Yeah.
When I started working with Katrin, she threw tantrums in the gym and cried on the regionals competition floor. Now she's the fiercest competitor on the female side and no one's mentally tougher. Like it can be developed. It's not this innate thing. So just like getting more conditioning, I would probably take the talent over the mental toughness.
Thanks so much for tuning into the episode this time around. One more reminder, be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening so you don't miss another episode. Speaking of another episode, on Friday, we are going to look at the inversion of this conversation. We had this conversation around teens and young folk looking to compete at the CrossFit Games. On Friday, we're going to revisit a conversation we had about masters and how masters can optimize their training and their performance to maximize their years as competitive athletes. It's a really good one, so I do encourage you to tune into that one as well. Thank you. We will see you on Friday.